Hi, everyone. I'm back. Sandy Cruz of Sandy K Gen X Unplugged podcast coming soon. The sister podcast to Sandy K Nutrition, Health, and Lifestyle Queen, where you learn all about how to age better. You can find my other podcast everywhere. And my Sandy K Gen X Unplugged will be coming soon to all podcasting platforms. Only video for now. I'm going to ask you to go to my Substack, Sandy Cruz, so SandyKruse.substack.com, and subscribe there because all of these articles and all of these important discussions tie in with my podcast. And really, this podcast is all about how to find balance in a really unbalanced world right now. And all of these discussions will stem from an unbalance and how do we find balance again? So today's discussion is, go follow me on Instagram, Facebook, all of those places. It's going to be Sandy K Nutrition everywhere. I got to figure out how to link everything with my two podcasts. But if you follow me on Sandy K Nutrition, anywhere you do socials, you're going to find all this information. Right now, it's all kind of intertwined, and that's okay. Just, just follow me. Now, today's article and today's podcast is going to be a little bit controversial. So I'm warning you in advance. And if you do feel triggered, you guys know what I say about triggers all the time. Triggers are meant to teach us something. They're not meant for anything other than that. And today's article is called What's It Gonna Be? Fatness or Frailty? And can we ever achieve balance? So remember, everyone, I'm a Gen X girl, and we kind of see a lot of reason amongst all the chaos. So that's what this article is designed to do. It's not designed to trigger you. Everything in my Substack is not to tell you how to live healthy or tell you what's healthy for you. And I think we have enough experts in the world, and we just need more educating. And then the resonance comes down to you. Does it resonate with you? What is there? What is the teaching? So that's really what this podcast, what my Substack is about. There's so much telling in the world, and we just need to go back, get quiet, and listen to what resonates with us, and then choose our path if we wish to do so on living healthier and more balanced. Okay, so to my article. We need to talk about this because it seems to be a problem of extremes, a loss of balance, if you will. You know, I am the queen of balance, right? I'm going to call myself this QOB. It can also be referred to as the queen of bitchiness, which I am too. And you know, it's so funny. I heard this. Somebody once commented, first of all, my podcast, Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen, has been around since 2020. I started it before the pandemic, and I heard something that somebody said, like, how dare I call myself a queen? I was like, what? So is the term queen only reserved for the LGBTQ community now? I'm like, no, bro, I am a queen. I am the queen of my domain, the queen of my house, the queen of my podcast, and I am keeping my name. Just had to stop there and say that. Okay. As a holistic nutritionist and certified metabolic balance coach without a thyroid gland, going through menopause, this is my specialty. Remember, while this may be my expertise, I'm not an expert in you. So this is more about education and exploration and helping you think outside the box. Okay. So I would love to remind you of this initial vital fact. Please stop trying to mimic all these incredibly fit health coaches, influencers, and others on social media. Most of these very fit people have been this way their whole life. I believe that starting off young by working out, eating well, etc., gives you an edge and helps you to do well in the future. I was extremely thin, likely too thin at some points in my younger years, a former smoker who didn't think or care about what food I was eating, and I never exercised regularly. Don't worry, I quit smoking in my 30s. Fatness often starts in your 40s, while frailty might begin in your 50s. Or you just keep gaining weight from your 40s all the way through. This can happen even amongst women who have been at a stable weight their entire lives, but this obviously doesn't apply to everyone. Women can be thin their whole life and their bodies change around 40. This is absolutely my situation. Having a total thyroidectomy at 41 didn't help me. This month, I got a Chatelaine magazine delivered, and I don't recall subscribing, by the way. And on the cover was an obese woman in a bikini. By the way, Chatelaine magazine, you got to stop being so woke because you are really losing a huge market. So I threw it out. I didn't even open it because it triggered me a bit because this has become acceptable and the norm in our society, which bothers me more than anything. But so has Ozempic face and frailty. What the hell is happening now? We've got such extremes. We have women who are only maybe 10 pounds overweight, midlife, don't want to do the work, take Ozempic, lose a ton of face, then say they look old. So then they stuff a bunch of filler in their faces and end up looking like bobbleheads. Am I wrong? How often did you see obese people in the 70s and 80s? So many factors are at play now, including food sources and much more. But the facts are this. I heard Oprah say, "It's not my fault," in an interview. And to be truthful, this clip was absolutely clickbait. And what I'm saying here isn't a slam on Oprah, as she does do a lot of the work. And what she was referring to was genetics. She found out that she carries some genetic predispositions to obesity. I'm like, who fucking gives a shit? So do I. I actually know for sure. First of all, there's not one obesity gene. There are multiple genes that can contribute to obesity. I know I carry at least four. So I was like, that's not a major relevance or relevant part of a conversation as it relates to obesity. It's an excuse and it's not taking accountability. However, we all know that Oprah does, and this particular clip was clickbait. It's just to get people to go, "Oh yeah, I carry an obesity gene. I I don't have to do anything. I'm gonna either just stay like this, take no accountability, or take Ozempic and take no accountability." Although I do have a caveat to Ozempic. So in the majority of cases, obesity is your fault, taking into account multiple factors, including food choices, processed foods, no exercise, genetics, poor sleep, addictions, mindset. You can't blame only your genetics, and it is a cop out. I carry multiple genetics that might predispose me to obesity. In addition, I'm going through menopause without a thyroid, two significant risks for weight gain. Okay. That's on top of these genes that I have. An excuse is an excuse. It's not positive for the general population of obese people when you see clickbait of celebrity figures saying that their weight problem isn't their fault. It just contributes to the obesity crisis and epidemic. And what I will talk about later, the Ozempic crisis as a fallback. We know it's more challenging to maintain a healthy weight if you have certain genetics and predispositions. But when you use this as an excuse to justify obesity or take the easy way out when you really don't have to, like Ozempic, I don't support this. So I'm going to get into what obesity is. And yes, there is a place for Ozempic. There is a place for gastric bypass surgery. There's a place for those things. So let me define obese for you by clinical definition. If you have a body mass index of over 30, you're obese. It's not hard to get there. I typically sit at around a 26 BMI, but I have good body composition of healthy levels of visceral fat, healthy muscle and bone, and I am within range for a healthy waist to hip ratio, waist divided by hip. You should be under 0.85 if you're a woman. You can find that anywhere on the internet, by the way. I know it's a lot to think about, but this is important. I often wonder what sort of body composition all these 50-something-year-old real housewives, yes, everyone on the Real Housewives, have after being on Ozempic for over a year. In my article, I include a calculator just to figure out your body composition right now. It's more about your BMI, not your body composition, the calculator. Some obese people may do well with Ozempic for a short period of time. So if you're an over 30 BMI, maybe that's a route you want to go. But you got to see if it matches with your age, what's going on in your life, how your diet is, how's your movement to ensure that you maintain muscle, and do you even have the energy to move? Because if you're not eating enough, it's tough. So some obese people may do well with Ozempic for a short period of time. It may help establish healthier habits. I do not think Ozempic is a healthy choice long term, especially as we age. Some obese people may do well with bariatric surgery. Yeah, I think that's what it's called, to help establish healthier habits, but they need to live a certain lifestyle forever if they do that surgery. Weight loss, for the most part, is just a mind fuck. It all gets down to that brain of ours. I believe when balance is lost and you're above a 30 BMI, you must do something to change habits, diet, lifestyle in order to age better because you're at risk for a whole host of diseases if you're obese. Now, with the advent of GLP-1s, Ozempic, Wegovy, all of those, frailty has also become the norm for all these middle-aged women, which I believe is just as bad as obesity as we age. And I see this relational to eating disorders in terms of what it does to the body long term. I also believe orthorexia is somewhere in between when people have a fear of foods and don't eat a balanced diet as a result. As we age, we often encounter challenges with absorption, and our more ominous genes can be expressed. This is a dangerous combination for longevity. How many of you know people diagnosed with a disease around midlife? Midlife seems to be a triggering point in people's lives. It is a danger zone when we don't get the sleep and nutrients our bodies need to run smoothly. Obesity is dangerous and the root of many of the diseases that will shorten your longevity. It is rarely a disease of only genetics, in which case I could, as a nutritionist, give it a pass. I'll explain why most women gain weight in their 40s, and I will set aside the fact that our food sources also have a play at this, a big play. It's a relatively simple process to describe, but it's difficult to resolve. So the reason I'm writing this is for you to think about it, not because I'm telling you what your issue is. So typically, this begins with an inability to eat the same food and in the same manner as you once did in your younger years without consequences. Add in imbalances with hormones and perimenopause. Add in more stress and less sleep. How many of you are driving your kid all over the place in your 40s to all these different practices? You're not sleeping well. Then there's teenagers and they wake you. It's just a shit show, okay? From the 40s on, let's face it. Some women fight it and then work out even harder, which adds to their stress bucket. I think that's not talked about enough. All this working out just to try and catch up and be in this calorie deficit, which is bullshit. Bullshit. Some women begin to drink more alcohol midlife. Well, that's going to set you back. Some women give up and then their weight just compiles. In comes your 50s. Now, everything that you've done in your 40s is compounded. Plus, you have the stress of full menopause. Your sleep gets worse, your hormones drop, lowering estrogens predisposition you to even more weight issues, like a loss of insulin sensitivity. You must change habits and lifestyle here, or you're on the road to aging poorly. Many now fall into this Ozempic trap, but as noted above, frailty is a huge problem as we age, and Ozempic long term puts us at risk for this, plus many other issues. I actually have an article linked to my article to the New York Times on Ozempic as we age. So, what to do? It's a conundrum, isn't it? I would argue that obesity is a disease of the mind, the body, and soul connection at its root cause. Root cause. It's a disease of imbalance. It's a disease of many factors. I'll give you a few points to think about as I finish. Is it trauma that you need to unpack and address? Is it addictive behaviors? Is it your mindset? Are you just always on that hamster wheel? Is it just a habit? This article is not to shame anyone for their issues. Weight is a very personal thing. This article is to get you thinking about your own why or whys. Why are you eating the way you are? Why are you gaining? Sometimes finding your why can take you to dark places. So be sure if you start this kind of explorative work that you have some support, because I can tell you from personal experience that gaining weight is multifactorial and doing things completely out of balance. So, not giving a shit, gaining weight, and just letting yourself go is one side. The other side is taking the easy way out. Again, there is a place for GLP-1s. I'm not saying there isn't, but recognizing that skinny is not healthy is really important. It's an important piece to this. I mean, I gave you my BMI around my BMI. It changes sometimes. And if you look at BMI, I don't believe in body mass index unless you are over 30, because clearly there is a weight problem if you are in that category. When you're kind of in the middle, then, it doesn't really take into account muscle or bone or any of those things. So the whole point of this is not to shame anyone. It's just to call it out for what it is. It's a shit show of imbalance on all fronts. We are saying that it's okay and everyone's healthy at every size. That's not true. That's bullshit. That's just not taking accountability for eating too much or eating bad foods or not caring or not doing the work. But then on the other hand, and the other end of the spectrum, it's also not healthy. I would almost, I not almost, I would definitely argue that it is more unhealthy. So for myself, if I was to look at me, maybe I'm 10 pounds over what I should be. I do have muscle, I do work out. But if you're looking only at weight, and then I go, okay, I'm going to go on Ozempic, that would put me at a huge risk for bone loss. Me personally, I'm not talking about you. I know my body composition. I know I would lose muscle. I know what stage I'm at in my life right now. I'm in the crux of menopause. So, all of these factors, if I took Ozempic now just to be skinny, I want every one of you ladies watching this to really think about this. It's a different story if you've got a huge hill to climb, and Ozempic for a short period of time might help you get there. But speak with your own practitioner, speak with somebody who is qualified, and don't give away all the power within yourself of knowing what's right for you. I hope you found that useful. Be sure to follow my podcast, Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen podcast. You're going to hear like from all sorts of experts, and they are experts in hormones and wellness, and it's aging from a very different perspective. And then be sure to join my Substack community. You're going to hear more about my book. It's Sandy Cruz. So SandyKruse.substack.com. Join, see me there, and then follow me on all of the socials, Sandy K Nutrition everywhere. Thank you guys. I appreciate you.